The traditional origin story of the Buddha is one of the most famous legends in history. We're told that a sheltered 28-year-old prince ventured outside his palace walls and saw an old man, a sick man, and a corpse for the very first time. A shock so profound it triggered an immediate spiritual awakening. In 1956, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the chief architect of India's constitution, published a critique that challenged the logic of this ancient narrative. Curious, analytical, Ambedkar posed a simple, piercing question. How could a 28-year-old adult, living in the ancient world, have gone his entire life without ever encountering a single sick or elderly person? It defies basic human biology and social reality. Historical evidence suggests a much more grounded origin. Buddhism emerged as a calculated, strategic response to a massive socioeconomic crisis tearing through ancient India. Stripping away the centuries of spiritual mythology reveals a highly rational philosophy. It was engineered specifically to heal a society buckling under the weight of rapid, overwhelming technological shifts. In the 6th century BC, India entered the Axial Age. This period of severe technological disruption was driven primarily by one major innovation: the mass production of iron tools. Before iron, clearing the dense forests of the Ganges Valley was nearly impossible. With heavy iron axes and plows, farmers could suddenly clear vast tracts of land, triggering an unprecedented explosion in agricultural output. This massive surplus of crops created complex regional trade networks. The old barter system of trading wheat for cows could no longer keep up, forcing the invention of ancient silver punch-marked coins as a standardized unit of exchange. Trade hubs rapidly expanded into major cities. Within these urban centers, a brand new merchant class, known as the Vaishyas, accumulated vast liquid wealth, creating a level of private financial power that had never existed before. Economic booms of this scale are inherently destabilizing. Technological and financial progress drastically outpaced the existing cultural and religious frameworks, creating a highly volatile environment. The traditional Vedic religious system was completely incompatible with the needs of this new agrarian and merchant-driven economy. For kings and elites to gain spiritual merit, the established religion demanded massive, elaborate animal sacrifices. Sometimes thousands of cattle were slaughtered in a single ritual. This practice infuriated the new agricultural class. They viewed cattle as essential assets needed to pull the heavy new iron plows through their fields, not as disposable offerings. Simultaneously, the rigid traditional caste system placed priests and warriors at the top. It explicitly denied social and spiritual respect to the newly wealthy merchants, treating the accumulation of wealth as a lower-class pursuit. Sociologists call this status inconsistency. It creates a dangerous societal vacuum when a specific group possesses significant wealth and economic power, but completely lacks social dignity and respect. With angry farmers losing their most valuable equipment and frustrated billionaires seeking social status, the market was primed for a religious rebellion. The Shramana movement operated as a crowded marketplace of 62 different philosophical schools, all competing to solve this exact societal crisis. This ideological marketplace was fiercely competitive. It included strict ascetics like the early Jains, alongside extreme fatalists and materialists, all vying for the minds and the funding of the populace. Siddhartha Gautama cut through that noise. The Buddha approached the era's friction points, not with mystical pronouncements, but with a uniquely pragmatic method of analyzing cause and effect. His specific doctrine of ahimsa, or nonviolence, contained deep moral compassion, but also functioned as a strict economic safeguard. It protected the working cattle that the agricultural workforce relied on to survive. By directly opposing mass animal sacrifice, the Buddha's philosophical teachings provided exact practical solutions to the material pain points of the ancient economy. He applied the same pragmatism to the merchant class. A billionaire merchant named Anathapindika once approached the Buddha, asking if he needed to abandon his vast business empire to become a follower. The Buddha clarified that wealth itself is not the problem. The danger lies only in letting that wealth control your consciousness, rather than utilizing it for the good of society. He introduced the concept of right livelihood. As long as a merchant's business was ethical and didn't harm others, their profession was fully validated within his spiritual framework. Granting this long-denied spiritual dignity to the merchants triggered an immediate reaction. It resulted in massive, sustained financial backing, allowing for the rapid construction of large, organized monasteries. The Buddha aligned his spiritual teachings with the social needs of the era's rising economic superpowers. In doing so, he secured the permanent infrastructure his philosophy required to outlast its 61 competitors. Over the centuries, the highly pragmatic, rational nature of early Buddhism was gradually obscured by the writers of later historical texts. Authors of texts like the Buddha Charita, written hundreds of years after his death, added magical layers to the narrative. They introduced intervening deities and talking infants to elevate a philosopher into a divine, untouchable figure. Stripping away those magical myths reveals a far more impressive historical achievement: a purely philosophical system engineered to fix a broken economy. This rationality remained clear even in his final moments. As the Buddha lay dying, his closest aide, Ananda, asked him to name a successor or leave behind a rigid set of rules for the future. The Buddha strictly refused to act as a prophet. He explicitly denied them a single leader or an absolute rulebook, instructing his followers instead to rely on democratic consensus and their own reason. His final instruction to his students was simply Appa Dipo Bhava, be your own light. The Buddha's enduring legacy is his revolutionary demand that humanity use its own reason, observation, and self-reliance to navigate a constantly changing world.